They're dropping like flies. Graham Platner has a new sexual assault accusation that's dropped today. He's lost the support of Emma Vigeland. He's lost the support of Ro Khanna. He's lost the support of Ruben Gallego. All of these people have been big supporters of Platner, and he is losing them all. So it seems like the end is near. He's probably going to drop out. He said that he's taking time to reflect right now, and we all know that means that in the next couple days he's going to officially suspend his campaign. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Donald Trump used his presidential authority and imposing figure and manliness to get FIFA to pull the second day or of punishment for a red card that happened last week in the World Cup. So we're going to talk about that. Spencer Pratt released a video this weekend, and it's gone pretty viral. Last I checked, it was 7.5 million views on it. Now it is about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is hate for communists. That is an all-American kind of thing that we all should share in. And what's the last one that we're going to talk about? Oh yeah, there's an island-wide blackout in Cuba. Now, after the invasion, I guess you might call it, of Venezuela, or the military action in Venezuela, I guess is probably more accurate. They've lost a lot of oil that they had been depending on, and that Cuba, that is, has lost a lot of the oil imports that had been depending on. They're having massive problems with keeping the lights on clearly, and also the Cuban government has talked about kind of opening up some markets. So we're going to get into discussing that, and then if we have time, we're going to talk about an AI actor. So for the first time, there is a full AI actor. Her name is Tilly Norwood. She's going to be leading a new movie, and we'll get into all that. But before we do, why don't you head on over to bunkerbranding.com, and you can pick up some Timcast merch. We've got Ian's Betrayal, and Ian will be talking about this because but here's the shirt. You can see the Timcast crew here. You've got Tim, you've got Carter, you've got myself, all shooting at Ian as a red coat. So head on over to bunkerbranding.com and buy your Timcast merch there. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more. One second, I'm sorry. We've got Rollo Tomassi.
Hey, how you going?
Tell them who you are.
Welcome to Las Vegas, guys.
Thank you.
Glad to have you guys
much.
back again. Rollo Tomassi, the author of the Rational Mail series of books. I'm the co-host of Access Vegas with my co-host Michael Sartain, and then my ongoing podcast, The Rational Mail, which is now, since 2018. So been doing that, and I've got a new group that I'm helping guys out between the ages of like 45 and 65. I aim for like an older demographic because I really feel like those guys are really underserved these days. So I have a new group called Reignite, and that's basically what I'm doing here in Vegas these days.
Awesome. We've got John Cerasani here.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. I have a book that I wrote a few years back called 2000% Raise, about leaving corporate America behind and becoming your own boss and taking a stab at entrepreneurship. I was very fortunate to have an epiphany when I was 27 years old, and I like to share my experiences of success there and pass it along to other people. I also have a very popular Instagram account that not only talks about entrepreneurship, but it talks about some lifestyle things that go with that. And for me, one of my main hobbies is gambling, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm the best blackjack player that ever lived. Right?
Very cool, very cool. Ian's here.
Based. What's up, everybody? Good to be here. Let's rock and roll, baby.
All right, so we're going to get right into it. From Politico, Platner says he's taking time to reflect on his candidacy. The Maine Democratic Senate nominee posted the statement after Politico published allegations that he forced a woman to have sex with him, which he denies. Maine U.S. Senate Democrat nominee Graham Platner said Monday that he is taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for his candidacy, minutes after Politico reported that a woman who dated him said he forced her to have sex with him. Platner denied the allegation, but he said in a roughly 2-minute video that was posted to social media on Monday that he is mindful of the political reality and the reporting will inflict. Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward, Platner said. It's the first time that Platner, despite a series of scandals ranging from controversial online posts to earlier accusations about his behavior with women to a tattoo with Nazi ties. It's not tattoo with Nazi ties. It is an actual Nazi tattoo, has indicated that he was considering exiting the race. Look, Graham Platner has got like the full gambit. right? He's got a Nazi tattoo. He's got multiple allegations. He's talked about sexual assault. He would sexually assault someone. I'm being nice about that. He would sexually assault someone that broke into his house to assert dominance.
We're not saying that
Yeah,
word.
well, I mean,
Yes.
the stream just started, so you got to give it a few minutes.
To exert dominance.
Yeah, to exert dominance.
To exert dominance over.
Not in a
yes.
gay way, but to exert dominance and show them
Forced
who's
copulation.
boss. Yeah, right. And to see that it's taken so long for Democrats to actually abandon this guy with all of these allegations, if it was a conservative, obviously, even a hint of any of these individual allegations, and they'd be all
How
over.
did the Dems
calling-
get behind him in the first place when he's got a Nazi tattoo?
I don't know how that.
Is he like the only thing going in Maine? Like they need him to be the dude?
They're looking at other people now, if I understand correctly.
yeah, I would hope so.
Look, Collins is she's an incumbent. She consistently overperforms compared to what the polls tend to read. She's not a strong Republican, but her position is there, kind of doing what Manchin did, just holding the seat so that way a progressive or a Democrat don't take it. She's not a reliable Republican vote, but she's better than any Democrat.
Yeah, she's a placeholder.
So
Yeah.
if Graham Platner's out and the Democrats can actually bring in a new person that's better than Platner and take the spot, obviously that's a bad thing. But I don't know why they were holding on to Platner. He doesn't have anything in particular that makes him seem really all that insightful or anything.
If you look at the details of this Politico story, all right, they're in an off and on relationship. He showed up at her house intoxicated, and it sounds like he wanted to have sex that night and she didn't, right? And if this is coming out like this against him, he's got to be looking at, oh crap, if this is what's getting me in trouble, what else is going to come out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not to dismiss what he did or anything like that, but if you look at the details of it, if that was all there was that he was worried about, you could have tried to explain your way out of that a little bit. You know what I mean?
I've been reading, obviously on X and stuff, and there is possibly more stuff coming later. So
God, I think so.
If there is other stuff out there, I mean, he's got to get out.
Yeah, I gotta think there's more. I think if this was all he had, I think he would try to fight it. I think.
Obviously, he's controversial, but just to steal man Platner a little bit, that tattoo, Nazi adjacent, Nazi connected.
Adjacent, okay.
It's a Prussian, an old from the 1700s. I was just reading a little about it. I think it was, who was it? Frederick the Great's, one of his symbols from way back, cavalry tattoo. And then the Nazis ended up using it, taking it, and the SS co-opted it.
The same kind of thing can be said for swastikas. They existed in India and in other places before. Once the Nazis touch it, you kind of can't get that stink off.
How old is this guy?
I don't know exactly. I think he's in his mid-40s.
He's in his mid-40s.
He was I guess he's a GWAT veteran.
I was gonna say, like, how do you know the history well enough that you will say, you know what, I really want that on my body.
And he says that he's a history buff. He says that he's a fan of World War II history, and he's very interested in that stuff. So the idea that he didn't know, but yeah, like the idea that he was the best option, and now they're scrambling. In fact, if you look at Kalshi, right, the odds of him dropping out have skyrocketed. Clearly, it makes perfect sense for him to get out now. But there's also, I don't have it here, but the odds of Susan Collins losing have actually gone up now. Even though there's no one that's been named as a Democrat, it looks like the Democrats kind of still have the edge over Collins.
So essentially, the bet is anybody but this guy will beat that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Collins tends to overperform what the polls say, but that doesn't change the fact that, how do you say that
How does this guy
someone
get on the
that
Democratic
isn't
ticket?
I
blows me away.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah. But the idea that how do you say that a nameless Democrat, we don't even know who it would be better than Susan Collins?
Well, they're taking bets, obviously.
Well, yeah, they're the prediction market.
The prediction market is yes.
So Town Hall had a video of what was her name? Jenny Rasico.
It's French. It's French.
She said, I didn't want to have to violate this huge level of privacy to my own life to be able to infer that this person is not honest and trustworthy. I felt really protective of my own privacy and thought this whole process. And it got to a point where my privacy was no longer going to happen. And that was when I kind of just made the decision that, like, I'm going to say my piece and get it out there. I don't know. Can we play this? No, we can't play this.
If you open it in a new tab, if you right-click the video, Cal may have actually already done it.
Open in a new tab. So we'll
when the New York Times story came out, you were in it, but you didn't go as far in that story as you are today.
Yeah.
Why not?
I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to violate this huge level of privacy to my own life to be able to infer that this person is not honest and trustworthy. I felt really protective of my own privacy throughout this whole process. And it got to a point where my privacy was no longer going to happen. And that was when I kind of just made the decision that, like, I'm going to say my piece and get it out there. I had tried to give the impression that something, worse happened. And that's when it was like, I refused to comment further.
You definitely alluded.
So is that common where people say, oh, I don't want to talk about it because it's a privacy issue when it comes to something that is clearly going to come out? The guy's running for Senate. He's running for the upper house. He's not running for, just a congressperson spot, but he's running for a Senate spot. I feel like the idea that she would be like, oh, I don't want to because of my privacy, that just doesn't.
Well, it's got to come out in August or sometime around August. If you notice, like, most of the major scandals in an election season usually come out like late July or August because they need some time to sort of like ferment. They need the story needs to sort of percolate a little bit so that you remember it when you go to the polls in November. So a lot of the times whenever you see, and this could be, a general election, or it could be just midterms and stuff like that too, you'll see that a lot of the scandals were like, I think it was, in 2022, that was sort of like the women's year back then, because then you had, was it Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all that stuff. You had the Roe v. Wade getting kicked back to the states during that time, and so the leak, the quote unquote leak from SCOTUS happened like in March or April of 2022, and then they actually did the ruling right around July or August. So now you've got that sort of percolating right there. Oh, remember what happened, ladies? You got to go to the polls and vote. So when you're looking at scandals, or you're looking at any kind of controversy, or if they want to change the horse mid-race, they're going to do it right around July or August. So what I'm thinking here, and the more I look into the story, the more I'm reading as we're going along here, if it's a guy that they want to get rid of, especially if he's already got something in the backfield, that's when the ex-girlfriend is going to come forward and say, he did this to me. Or I remember back in, 2018 when this particular thing happened. And now, oh my gosh, his character comes into play and everything else. And particularly like male candidates are very easy to sort of, all you got to do is mention a sex scandal, and that's pretty much it for you. What was the guy? Was it Cuomo during COVID? When he was somewhat responsible for the
Senior
deaths
citizens?
of the senior citizens.
That was him, for sure.
That wasn't enough to get him removed from office, but a sex scandal was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so all you got to do is just lean on the sex.
Yeah. To your point, Joe
bring out
Biden,
an old girlfriend.
Yeah. To your point, Joe Biden dropped out of the race at the end of July.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. When did Biden drop out?
Yeah, there you go.
I suppose they do have enough time. It's still early July, but I suppose they do have enough time to give, a replacement candidate, some kind of momentum, especially if they're thinking, oh, look, if we get rid of this guy, the odds are that this new person will do better against Susan Collins. But I don't know. I kind of feel like they have to have someone that's going to knock it out of the park, or else they're going to be, they're facing an incumbent. You're facing someone that's
I'm really wondering who they're going to replace him with.
Yeah.
Because that'll let you know what, like, all the stuff that we're like sort of like trying to speculate on right now. You'll see whoever the replacement is. You go, oh. That's why they did that.
Yeah,
they really wanted this person, and then they couldn't get them to commit until now.
I haven't heard any names of anybody that would be looking to take his place. But like I said, they've got to be a home run if they're going to be able to actually jump in there and get some momentum, because the fact that we don't have a name, that there isn't someone that is clearly ready to take. I was
going to say that the chat saying it's going to be Janet Mills.
Janet Mills? I don't know. I'm not familiar with
look
her.
up Janet Mills. I don't know who Janet Mills. I'm not that familiar with Maine politics. I'm sorry to say. Right. I live in Las Vegas. But yeah, I was going to say is that's again, you're probably going to see a woman take that spot, so that you're because
she's the governor now.
She's the governor.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if she
could step in. I guess she could.
She could. Yeah.
Step down. It's happened before.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's possible. She's definitely got name recognition in Maine. So
if you believe what the Platner's camp fired back with, saying that this was being done politically motivated by out-of-state establishment, right?
Yeah.
So they mean the Republican Party, obviously. So that would mean that if that was true, let's just pretend hypothetically that's true, then you would have to assume that the Republicans don't, the highest amongst the Republicans don't think that there is anyone that will do better than him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if there was someone weighing in the wings, otherwise just go against Platner.
I mean, yeah, it seems to me that with all this stuff, the Republicans would probably prefer that he stay in.
Well, that's what you would think, but where did this woman come out of the woodwork just coincidentally? Or, I mean, what do we think?
Well,
according to Platner's camp, is politically motivated by somebody out of the state.
Yeah, I mean, look...
What else are they going to say, though, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, look, like I said, with all this stuff coming out, I just kind of imagine the Republicans would be like, no, keep him in, man.
Well, now, yeah.
Well, even before, I know that he wasn't doing particularly well against Collins, if I understand correctly. It wasn't like it was clear that he was going to be the winner. And he just has so much baggage. That's the kind of thing you want. You get onto TV and just talk. Oh, this guy has this guy has, and just ram it down people's throat. Because the Republicans can't really afford to lose any seats. They've got a razor thin majority.
Well, I was going to ask, how important is this seat for the Republicans in the midterms?
Well,
Is it the difference between holding the House?
No. I think they've got I think it's 53 Republicans versus 48 or 47 senators, and then you've got the vice president to break any ties or anything. But the Republicans in the Senate, they're not particularly reliable. You can't even get the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is the thing that everybody kind of points to now, is the fact that even though this is extremely popular with the American people, they can't get this passed, and it's because Republicans in the Senate won't actually bring it up for a vote, or they vote it down, which is mind-blowing.
They're trying to attach it to the NDAA, which the part of the NDAA wants to basically synchronize American and Israeli defense strategy, like trade secrets and things like that. So it's a big change to military strategy, and they're trying to attach the SAVE Act to that, which
they're doing it because the NDAA has to get passed. It's the National Defense Authorization Act, so it's how you allot money to defend the country. And it's one of those things where it's a big omnibus bill. They put a bunch of stuff in it. That's the way that they've done multiple things. The Smith Modernization Act was attached to the NDAA, and I think it was 2012, and that's what ostensibly gave the government the authority to propagandize Americans, because beforehand any information that the State Department produced could not be disseminated in the United States. It had to be for external use, and they couldn't do that kind of stuff. Then the Smith Modernization Act made it legal for the government to disseminate it in the U.S. So, and that kind of stuff is, they do that with omnibus bills all the time. So that putting the SAVE Act into the NDAA makes sense in that they kind of have to approve. They kind of have to vote to pass it, or else you're not going to be able to fund basically national defense. So that's why they're doing it.
Looking at the chat here, they're saying that Janet Mills actually ran in the primaries, but she lost in the primaries.
Well, I mean, if she did,
this might be the hatchet job that the Dems are doing to get him out, to put her.
She's
put
the
her in
governor.
there.
The story.
Yeah, we can't get her in the primaries. Let's get this guy out of here now that all we got to do is find somebody to.
It's worth noting.
That's not too far-fetched.
Oh, he's a dude? Okay, yeah, no problem.
Janet Mills is 78 years old as well. So, we hear people talk all the time.
I'm not saying she's the best candidate.
People talk all the time. We got to get these boomers out of government and stuff, and yet if it does end up being
Well, I
Janet
mean,
Mills.
maybe it's to the point where like people are like they're running the numbers, and the numbers don't look good, and so they're thinking, okay, well, this guy's going to lose. Who do we have that we could have got in there? Well, obviously Janet Mills couldn't win in the primaries, but this guy did. And then, so he's in there. They get him out with a sex scandal, and they put Janet Mills in, even though she lost a primary.
Well, I mean, I understand the thought process, but like it seems like all this stuff, like when you get enough smoke, there's probably fire. So this guy probably has done
I'm not
a good
saying he did.
portion.
Yeah.
So it's seeing the establishment kind of, people like Rokana, like I said, and Gallego, and even, like I said, Emma Vigeland, which that kind of surprised me. She's pretty far left, and seeing her kind of withdraw any kind of support, it's not just the establishment that's doing it. It's across the board. The progressives, the establishment. I think even Hassan Piker said he's cooked. And Hassan
Piker,
yes, on his stream today,
nice.
he was saying some stuff like, "Oh yeah, this guy's got to get out of here," and he's a trifecta.
You've lost Hassan Piker.
Yeah,
you've
right.
Lost. You've lost your bid.
There's very few things that he doesn't approve of when it comes to getting the outcome that he
Liberal
wants.
progressive politics. Yes.
Well, he's not a fan of liberals either. That guy's a commie. But let's listen to a little bit of what Graham Platner had to say.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love.
Yeah,
We know what that means.
He hasn't said that. That line, taking the time to reflect on the best path forward, that's pretty clear. It's worth noting also, the DSA has pulled support for him too. He was a DSA, favorite, because he's got very progressive politics and stuff, and they've even pulled their support. So
I like how he started it with non-consensual.
Yeah.
What happened? I did actually have sex with her, but
I was thinking the exact same thing.
She said okay.
That's what I was thinking, the exact same thing. And you also wonder, was he in politics 5 years ago? Do we know?
no,
You know what I mean? You just wonder if you knew you were going to politics, like, you wouldn't be getting wasted showing up at girls' houses. You know what I mean?
I don't think that
This is going to come out one day.
Yeah, I don't think that he was, 5-10 years ago. I don't think he had any idea that he would be in politics, because he's a drinker and he's a partier, and
you don't have a Nazi tattoo for nothing.
He's got a lot of weird stuff in his past.
I was really hammered that night.
There's a reason.
There's
a reason I will never go into politics. All right?
There's a lot of people won't because of that. Remember when Herman Cain ran and they even found stuff on him? I mean, this guy was a clean-cut guy until he wasn't. You know what I mean?
Shoot. I mean,
999.
Yeah, they can find stuff on anyone. You look at the biggest, basically Boy Scout Mitt Romney, who was as about as pure as the driven snow, about as pure as you can be in politics, and they still were like, "Oh, he's a Nazi."
No.
And it was a big deal. Like they were calling him a Nazi and saying that he's doing all these terrible things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Platner's
Wasn't it
actually
because
got him
his wife is like the president of Heinz ketchup or something? It's Heinz.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous stuff. So Ruben Gallego has pulled his support. He said the allegations against Graham Platner are troubling and deeply serious. I'm rescinding my endorsement. And like I said, Emma Vigeland. So we're going to listen to what Emma Vigeland.
Yeah, come on, I'm waiting for this one.
I've heard bad
Hey
rumors about
everybody,
her.
I just want to jump on here to address the serious, credible allegations against Graham Platner. This story is devastating. I believe the victim here. I think that Graham should drop out of the race. he has betrayed many, many supporters by not being forthright about this. I would include myself in that. I believed his campaign when they said that there was nothing new coming out, and it looks like an awful, awful accusation, and a credible one has come out. Now, this movement has never been about one individual. Any candidate that takes up the mantle here should share Graham's belief, or the campaign's belief, in ending complicity in the genocide in Gaza, Medicare for all, taxing billionaires, and more. But obviously, this is a devastating development, and we'll be talking about it more on the Majority Report tomorrow.
It's so interesting to me that the genocide in Gaza, or the pretendicide in Gaza, is the top issue for so many people from the left, right? Like the idea that this war 6,000 miles away is what the DSA really cares about the most. And it doesn't really have a significant effect on Americans' day-to-day lives. Americans vote about kitchen table issues. If you're out there like, hey, look, she brings up Medicare for all. Whether you're for that or against that, that's something that would materially affect people, right? The cost of living, how if you can pay for your groceries, if your dollar feels like it goes as far as it should, that's something that is going to affect Americans. That's something that your average normal Americans are going to go and vote about. The idea that the war in a war in the Middle East, that the U.S. isn't even technically fighting. You can make arguments about how much the U.S. supports Israel and stuff, but the U.S. isn't directly involved in. That's the leading issue for so many people in the DSA. Whether you're talking about Mamdani or you're talking about the Seattle mayor, they all are talking about how important this thing is, and I don't think that the average American actually has that on their mind.
Maybe not the average, but I understand that they're concerned, like, if we do have a global empire that's basically colonizing and taking over the world, are we okay genociding the people that live there as we take the territory? Like, repopulate them, kill them? Like, what do we do with the people that live on the place we take?
I just don't think that the U.S. is doing it, right? Like, we don't have Americans fighting in the Middle East or in Gaza, right? Like the U.S. is definitely fighting or was fighting a war over Iran, right? Like we're U.S. military planes are dropping bombs in Iran. That's a real thing. But the fight between the Palestinians in Gaza and the Israelis, that's really not the U.S.'s issue. I mean, I'm not particularly concerned with how that war over there is going, because it doesn't really have an effect on me, at least not on my day to day.
But that's a big deal for the DSA.
DSA is huge. Really? It's huge.
Do you get the? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but do you get the impression that they're sort of coattailing what's going on, sort of like in the conservatives, or the big sort of schism between you support Israel, you don't support Israel? Do you think that they feel like they have to say that, sort of work their way into that narrative just so they can remain somewhat relevant?
Well, I think when it comes to the issue with the Palestinians in Gaza and with Israel, they look at Israel as the oppressor. Palestinians are the oppressed. It's a Marxist power dynamic. It's anti-colonialism. They say that the state of Israel is a colonial experiment. They consider the Israelis. They say, look, those are Israelis from Europe. Those guys are from Europe. They're white people that have gone down there to oppress brown people. Now, I personally don't think that that's quite accurate, although there are plenty of people that were in Europe that moved down to Israel.
As an election cycle narrative, is that just something that they're just trying to sort of insert themselves into, just so that, hey, we're part of this conversation too?
Well, I think that it genuinely is a big deal to them, because they look at it as they look at at Israel as a proxy for the U.S. They'll say, oh, Israel controls the U.S. and blah blah blah. They'll make that argument, even though I don't find that argument compelling. But they'll say that Israel is a proxy for the U.S. and the U.S. is telling Israel it's okay to wipe out these poor brown people. And it's about being at the end of the day, it's about being anti-American. It's anti-Western, because they look at Israel as a Western style nation.
It's the Western influence that Israel represents out there, that represents America, and Al-Shabaab was a terrorist group, everything going on with that. But that's always been the case. This has been the case for decades and decades, right? But what hasn't been the case to me, at least in my observation, is the last couple of years, this anti-Israel sentiment in the United States. I don't think that existed before a couple of years ago. Not vocally like this, at least.
In the late 1900s, they called it Jew hate, and they rebranded it. They're like, we got to figure out a better term because this sounds so bad. So they started saying anti-Semitism. That was the new word they used.
Okay.
So it's been around, not really. I mean, it has been around the U.S., but I think mass media has now given a megaphone to minority ideas, sometimes like that.
When I hear anti-Semitism, do you equate that specifically to Israel?
I personally don't, because Semite means it's a desert person, so that whole area is filled with Semites.
Okay. Then I'm looking at it too generically. When I hear anti-Semitism, I just mean you're racist or discriminate against a Jewish person. I wouldn't even relate it to Israel personally. I didn't know Semite means desert, so they are talking specifically about Israel, I guess.
One thing I did catch so the first thing out of her mouth was, "I believe the victim."
Yeah,
immediately. I'm like, that dog whistle right there, boy.
Just to clarify, Graham went over to this chick's house. He was drunk. He was like, "I want to get it on." She was like, "No," and he was like, "Well, we're going to do it anyway." And then forced his. As the story is, he forced his way into the house, and like she was screaming, "Stop!" and he beat her up, or did she just acquiesce? Like,
I didn't see her say that in the article. It sounded like they were off and on, where maybe they had sex consensually the night before.
Oh, okay.
So that's I'm not defending the guy, but I'm just saying, like, you look at the details of the article, and that's why I'm saying this might have been the tip of the iceberg with other people coming out of the frickin' woodwork. Because if I were him and this was it, and it's he say, she say, and especially if they're still sleeping together after the incident. They keep dating after the incident?
Yeah.
See, the other thing is, like, when you see stuff like this come out, and like everybody's denouncing him, like within the day,
because
like
of the headline. It's because of the headline.
48 hours, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what makes me think that this is part of the takedown. Everybody, hey, okay, we're all like colluding to take this dude down.
Perfect. We got our reason.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of just the straw that broke the horse's back, broke the camel's back, because like he had allegations of like sending illicit messages to other women. I think they were like he was sexting back and forth with women while he was married. Okay. He had a Kick account, so people are questioning. He had a Kick account, so people are questioning.
I believe you. You know you were going to be in politics one day.
You were correct. Yes.
Sorry, I'm taking all that.
Was he propositioning children? There's he made jokes about the tattoo, even though he swears that he didn't know. He made jokes about the tattoo being a Nazi tattoo to other people. So it's just a cascade of bad stuff that the guy's been involved in, and this kind of thing. It's like, all right, we gotta pull
the rider.
Yeah.
What gets me is that I don't know if it was Polymarket or Kalshi had said that him dropping out, the odds are up that he's going to drop out, and therefore the odds are greater that the Republicans are going to lose. Meaning, wait, I want to say it in a way that people understand. They're indicating that him dropping out is actually a good thing for that party because they thought that he was a bad candidate. That's very strange to me. So it just reinforces what you're saying.
Susan Collins is I mean, like, I don't know how long she's been there, but she's been in the senator from Maine for a long time.
78, right?
Was it
78?
Was it 78?
Is that how old she is?
I don't know, but she's been there forever. Oh yes, Susan Collins is old. Yes, I don't know how long she's. How long has Susan Collins been? Wait a minute, I didn't type in Susan Collins.
Yeah, 97 is when she.
From 97 is when she first won. So there you go. I mean, she's been there for 30 years.
29 years, yeah.
So in the Platner campaign, all right, or the Platner's statement from their camp, these allegations are very serious, and Graham vigorously denies them. They are also coached and coordinated by out-of-state establishment operatives. What's interesting that could be either party, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't say the GOP. They didn't say the GOP.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. I mean, it could be. As far as the idea that it was an op to get him out. Look, he is a DSA guy, and the DSA has been racking up wins. So, I mean, I don't know that I have an opinion on it, but it could well be that the established Democrats are like, all right, if we can get rid of this guy and get someone that is a more establishment Democrat, that would be better for the party, because the DSA has been just, gangbusters winning. They've won, they won like 3 primaries in New York or what have you, maybe even more. They've got like I said, the Seattle mayor. They've got Mamdani. They've got, they had AOC, even though she's kind of looking at the big picture. And her career.
Yeah, she's pop culture is what she is.
Yeah. So, but she got in because of the Justice Democrats and the DSA support. So it could be that the Democrats or the DNC is like, look, we have to do something about these candidates because they're going to take over the party. You've got people like Hakeem Jeffries saying, oh, maybe we do need some fresh blood. About the only person that has a reasonable take on the DSA and the far left in the Democrat Party right now is Fetterman.
Yeah.
He's like, these guys are crazy communists. There are a handful of Democrats. I think they got like 15 people out of all the House to form a group that are like, no, we're actually pro-capitalist. We are against socialism and we are pro-America. We're actually patriotic. Most of the DSA is not. They do not like America. Just as a baseline is like, we think America is overall bad, and Democrats know that when you go to the general and you've got people that in their past are just like, I hate this country, I use the flag to wipe my hands and that kind of stuff. They know that you're normal Americans that, get about 30 minutes to an hour worth of political content a week that are worried about their kids and about their jobs and about the normal things that normal people are worried about that are not particularly plugged in. They know if they hear, oh, this person hates America, they're gonna be like, really? Because generally people don't want to hate the country they're from. Most Americans have a broadly positive view of the United States. They'll be like, yeah, we got problems, but overall America's great. And when you've got candidates, especially if you've got a lot of them, right? Like, it's not just one or two. When it was Bernie Sanders, just Bernie Sanders
was
from
a
Vermont,
focus,
it was fine.
Because the popularity sort of worked against him.
It was like, it was one guy. He's not even a Democrat. He's an independent, blah, 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 all of that stuff. But if you've got, 15, 20 candidates that are all
no
saying,
names, and they're just B-listers.
yeah, and they're all saying, we hate America, America's blah, 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 and they're focused on, they all have a focus on a war in the Middle East. These people probably, this kind of attitude is probably the future of the Democrats, right? But right now, the boomers are still the majority, the largest voting bloc. Gen Z doesn't make it out to the polls. They don't make it out to vote, particularly in off-year elections, in the midterms. They might be online and be active, but actually getting to the polls historically, not saying that they can't, that the DSA isn't great at organizing and getting people animated, but historically, Gen Z doesn't go out to vote nearly as much as people that are, Gen X and boomers. And so even now, with the amount of boomers versus the amount of Gen X and in the future Gen Alpha, like, there's just not a lot of them compared to.
I feel like this midterm is like really kind of low effort. Like when we were in 2022 and Biden was saying, hey, we're going to forgive student debt, because that was supposed to be part of his campaign promise back then, and he didn't make good on it. But then when the midterms came around, and it was right at the same time that they were kicking back Roe v. Wade to the states. And so suddenly became the woman's issue midterm election. And the reason I say that is because women hold most of the student debt load in the United States. So it's basically stimmy checks for like women who have the student debt, right? So you're getting people out there. And as a result, that's what happened in 2022. That was like kind of like the theme. And I'm trying to like figure out what the theme is for the midterms this go round.
I feel like the theme is at least on the left is Gaza and the genocide.
I mean, and maybe there's no theme because, like I was saying before, there's like we're just inundated with B-listers right now. Nobody knows, like nobody has like a really strong. I mean, AOC, right? But you don't know, and maybe Mamdani, but Mamdani's like local, right? He's not like national yet, but the theme right now is maybe like no theme, because nobody knows what the character of any of these people are until they kind of rise to the top.
It may very well be the consolidation of power around Israel, United States, because Massey, his opponent won AIPAC. It was all AIPAC money. I don't know all AIPAC money, but I don't know how much APEC money came in, how much out of state, 20 million or something. The highest, most spent foreign, was it? It was insane amounts of money at Trump's behest put against that guy to get him out of office.
Do you think that money actually does equal victory? Because if you look at like Hillary Clinton, she spent $1 billion. And Trump didn't spend as much money as she did, and Trump won. Biden spent $1 billion, and he beat Trump, but that was a novel election. Biden and Kamala Harris spent $1 billion. It was totally novel.
I like the euphemism. I love
it's fine if people are like, "Oh, it was a fake election." That's fine. But like, we had never had an election where people mailed out ballots and then went out and collected those ballots. You know, it's like
100%. The reason I'm laughing is because there was I don't know. We probably moved past it by now, but there was a time where you couldn't say that on YouTube without getting banned.
But to your point about the money, though, you look back to 2016 with Trump's primary. I mean, all those guys raised more. Jeb Bush, Trump had pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So I think your point's very valid.
It is worth pointing out that, you know, for Massey to lose was like an earthquake because he's an incumbent. He was there 7 terms or whatever, and for an incumbent to lose against someone that was, I think it was a relatively, I don't even know the guy's name, so it's a fairly unknown guy, to lose a primary, like that's a big deal. But I don't know that the money is always the thing. I know the left loves to say that it's the money, right? They say, oh, you've got all these super PACs and Citizens United and et cetera, et cetera. The left loves to make a stink about it, even though they're taking, you know, money from their own super PACs, and there are people like George Soros that spend billions and billions.
They create slush funds out of that and wait till the next election comes around, and then they'll use it for the next
exactly. So there's money that both sides, you know, a lot of money that both sides spend. But I don't feel like it's not my sense that whoever spends the most money wins.
Yeah, certainly not in the midterms. That's for damn sure.
It's what the money can get you, which ideally is publicity. I mean, that's really what money is for in politics, is publicity. So like YouTube channels are worth so much money, $10,000 a night if you've got 100 million people, 100,000 people watching you.
Even to that point, like Thomas Massey had, you know, almost, at least with the Kentucky voters, they knew him. You know, he, again, 7-term incumbent. It's not like they didn't know who the guy was.
That's what I'm trying to find out. How much did Massey spend? Well, he had upwards of $32 million spent against him, the most expensive U.S. House primary in history. I'm trying to find out how much he raised.
Well, it's like when Kamala Harris does her book, and she's mentioning by name Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines in there as being like factors in her losing. I know, it's ridiculous. Then she refuses to go on Joe Rogan, right? And then what's the first thing they do when they're trying to lick their wounds after Trump wins is like, well, we don't have a Joe Rogan. I'm like, well, you had an invite to go on Joe Rogan. You could have gone and done that.
You had Joe Rogan, and then you had and you went crazy in California.
Trump at one point too.
Well, the other thing is that we're kind of looking at 20th century candidates in a 21st century political, ecosystem, I guess, maybe. And it's going to be interesting when we have a 21st century candidate running in a 21st century ecosystem.
Yeah,
I mean, when you look at, if you look, we just mentioned Hillary and you mentioned Trump. They are 20th century brands. They were big names back in the 90s.
Mitch McConnell, apparently he's brain dead. I don't know. That's Laura Loomer reporting that he's not coming back, and he's the old slow down there. Like he's the old slow. I'm the 20th century Republican.
I forget what the site was. Somebody did the markup of this, of the ages of all the people who are of all of our representatives, like all the senators and all of the represent in the House, right? And what their ages are, and you would be surprised how many of them are over 80.
They're all when they're young. Hold on, the whole thing about Mitch McConnell. I know that the chat is going to hate me for this. Mitch McConnell is the reason that Merrick Garland is not on the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell is the reason that Roe versus Wade got overturned, because Mitch McConnell was the guy that held up Merrick Garland. So you can hate on Mitch McConnell because he's a boomer and because he doesn't like Trump, and that's fair enough. But I want to point out that having someone that knows the rules and is that crafty and clever in the Senate or in the Congress, like that is important. And Mitch McConnell's the reason why we've got the Supreme Court that we do.
Well, on one side, you need the foundation of the experience of these people, but you also need this new blood coming in that are forward thinkers, you know, I think. And when you said the 20th versus 21st century thing, were you referring just to the Democrats or both parties?
No, what I mean is like the process, like right now, like put it this way, when Kamala Harris is mentioning by name Myron Gaines and Andrew Tate in her book as being like factors in her losing. That's what I mean. That's the 21st century. The podcasts, you know, the like right now, like podcasting, at least online media, social media, that didn't exist in the 20th century. Okay,
well, I mean,
so it's like learning how to use that to your advantage right now is still something that eludes a lot of these old school brands who are still using, you know, like Reagan era Lee Atwater kind of, you know, here's how we're going to go and win this campaign. And it's like, no, you're not. This is because you need a Joe Rogan, you need a Chris Williamson, you need a Myron Gaines, you need a whatever, you need a Tim Pool, right? You need somebody to go out there and have, you know, the same kind of market share that CNN or some of the bigger, you know, it's no longer TV and commercial TV that gets your message out there.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know who stayed up till 3 a.m. when Trump won the election, when they called it, and he's doing his, you know, acceptance at the rally and everything. He brings Dana White out there. I don't know if you guys were still watching. It was 3 a.m. Dana White gets on the mic and starts thanking people
now that
like
the campaign portion
Taylor
of my
Lewan,
mission,
Will Compton from Bustin' with the Boys, Aiden Ross, who's a big screamer, that whole generation, and giving them credit for actually moving the frickin' needle. Now, Trump's having the frickin' UFC fight on his frickin' front lawn. He's calling frickin' soccer referees and changing outcomes, right? So, you know, when Trump's done, you know, is someone going to step into that role? I mean,
Trump overturns a red card.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think the 21st century, the youth's going to come in. Like J.D. Vance is an example of someone that's more technical, maybe more technocratic, but it's going to come in, and it's going to be a lot faster. It's going to be moving a lot quicker.
J.D. Vance gets it.
For better
Marco
or worse.
Rubio gets it. He's like, he understands and I'm not saying I'm for or against any of these guys. I'm just saying at least they understand the mechanisms of the 21st century and how change the election cycle and everything that we used to think of as, you know, being sort of set in stone from like, I don't know, the late 70s through the 90s is no longer the game that we're playing in 2026.
I'm going to tell you what, when Rubio defended what we did in Venezuela, when he got on there and defended that action, I mean, he gained some freaking fans. He sounded sharp. People were coming at him from every freaking angle. No, this is what we did, and here's exactly why. Correcting reporters and everything. I think he has his time to shine.
Rubio is very sharp, and
the other thing is this, and think about this. And I don't know, this is just something I kind of wanted to throw at you. Imagine, well, it's probably going to happen in 2028. Imagine the election that is leveraging AI to push it forward. Imagine it's the Claude election, it's the ChatGPT election. It's using those, you know, using AI and those algorithms and that, you know, large language models to get behind a candidate.
To your point about a 21st century candidate, it's possible that the guy that we're talking about is Spencer Pratt. So we're going to go to the story from Fox News. Spencer Pratt lights social media on fire with viral takedown of vile commie Mayor Mamdani. He put up a video this week, and we'll play a bit of it, and it is gone incredibly viral. I think it's something like 7.5 million views. You know, Elon Musk had tweeted it. But Fox News says Spencer Pratt sparked widespread online reaction over Independence Day weekend after posting a sharp rebuke of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani for using the July 4th holiday to criticize America's history. Pratt, a former TV reality star who drew attention with his surprise L.A. mayoral run, continued his political commentary by targeting Mamdani, who marked the nation's 250th Independence Day by delivering an immigration-themed address from George Washington's desk. Flanked by 8 recently naturalized U.S. citizens, Mamdani criticized U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Elon Musk, and what he described as the arena of supremacy in the United States. Look, Mamdani is not a fan of the United States, and Spencer Pratt really took him to task. We're going to play a little bit of this right now, so...
We all had to sit and watch that vile commie mayor sit on the wrong side of our founding father's desk to try and lecture us about our own history. Notice how the communist always attacks your history. The communist must attack your history. Why? Because history is what anchors you. It's what makes us attached to something. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. History breeds an almost irrational attachment to things, an attachment that is more powerful than anyone can imagine. Erasing history is how you demoralize people. people, how you unmoor them and detach them from their society so you can take it from them and rewrite it in your image. Think of your country like a home. What makes your home special? It's not the marble countertops or the expensive furniture or the fancy appliances. It's the memories you have there. That backyard is where we got married. That living room rug is where our son took his first step. Hey, don't touch that. That was his first teddy bear. It doesn't matter how torn and tattered that thing is. You will never get rid of it. And you will fight anyone who tries to take it away. Why? Because you have history with it. You ever buy a new home? Remember those first few months? Even the first few years there, it doesn't feel like home. It could be a million times nicer than the crappy apartment you came from, but it doesn't feel like home for a long time because you don't have history there. It's easy.
So the point that he makes in this is really, really, really
Where is he
good.
doing this
from his front yard.
That is freaking great. That is
from the front yard of the
optics.
burnt down house.
Yes.
I mean, he's great on social media, right? Obviously, but this particular video it really, really, in my opinion, it hits home for me. Like it's a great understanding of the tactics that the left is using, right? This is when he mentions demoralization, right? Everybody not everybody, but most people that watch this show, watch IRL, they're familiar with Yuri Bezmenov and his instruction on what the communists were trying to do, right? How they operated. And the idea that you can demoralize a population by convincing them that their country is not worth loving, that their country is all bad, and they only focus on, the negative things. It's all true. And you see it in young people nowadays. You see all the people on the left that don't love America, that all they can see, all they think of is the negatives. And this video, if you haven't watched this video, I strongly recommend that you watch this video. It is a little bit long. It's 5 minutes and 35 seconds long. It's long as far as social media videos go, but it's really, really great. He really lays out a great argument as to what the left is trying to do, what Zoran Mamdani's intent was, even though Mamdani tries to make it sound like he's got a positive message. It's not a positive message overall. It's critical of the United States, and to do it on the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence shows that he doesn't actually love this country. He doesn't see this country as something worthwhile. And Spencer Pratt makes a great point.
He's also doing it on that day
Yeah.
because he knows he's going to get that emotional impact.
yeah,
He's going to. He knows it's a holiday. He knows it's special. He knows the Thunderbirds are flying over Las Vegas, and knows that that's time. It's not July 6th. It's not July 1st. It's July 4th.
And Pratt makes the point that Mamdani's been, he's been an American for 8 years. He was naturalized 8 years ago, and a new American is sitting there in the highest office in the city of New York, lecturing Americans about what America is, and he's doing it on the 250th anniversary. I'm not the pearl clutching kind, but like my thought on that when I saw it was like, sure, kid, whatever, right? He's 30 some years old, and he's going to lecture me on what an American, what makes an American, and what makes our country. Like, that's ridiculous.
What did he say?
Mamdani?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he said things like the piece said. He said, let me see here. He
alluded to Elon Trump being a trillionaire, or Elon Trump, Elon Musk being a trillionaire while kids are going hungry. You know what I mean?
From
like a lot of stuff like that, like all soundbite kind of things.
Yeah, from Fox News, he said, as we mark 250 years, what do we see, Mamdani asked? We see a city of contradictions within a nation of contradictions. We see the wealthiest country in the history of the world, one where children go to sleep hungry, while the world's first trillionaire hungers for more. We see monopolies that dominate every industry and oligarchs who buy elections. We see masked agents terrorizing our streets, eating food cooked by our undocumented neighbors before spiriting them away in unmarked vans. We see a nation whose immense wealth has been built by those with callous, dirt-streaked hands, those who toil on factory floors and chisels into stone, and we see a nation that has allowed so much of that wealth be held instead in the soft hands of a precious few. It's a total indictment of the United States.
So it's the proles versus the bourgeois.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
The money people are not Americans. They're Swiss bankers. I mean, it's a foreign op.
He's talking about Jeff Bezos. He's talking about Elon Musk.
Those people all owe dollars back to the Fed.
He's talking about Donald Trump. He's talking about Americans that have built businesses here, and he's saying that they're the bad guys.
I want to know specifically who he's talking about, the oligarchs that bought elections. Who's he talking about with that one? You know what I mean? I would say that's more on the liberal side than the conservative side, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm not sure who he had in mind, but it's clear that this is not a positive message of America.
Spencer Pratt, he made a good point in his video that, history is important to preserve. That I agreed with. Calling Mamdani, I think he said a filthy communist. He said Mamdani is not a communist.
Yes, he is.
He's a socialist. There's a big difference.
No, there's not.
I mean, unless he espouses an intense communism on the people.
What's the difference between socialists and communists?
Well, communists want no state. They want no state. They want everyone to own every piece of everything together collectively, whereas a socialist uses federal funds to do state jobs and stuff.
So there's still a state in socialism rather than
Lenin
communism?
said that the end goal of socialism is communism.
You could use it as a pass-through to get to communism, but I don't think Mamdani wants communism.
Is Mamdani a Marxist?
It sounds like it. These statements make it seem like he wants some sort of class, or sees a class war in process. But I'm telling you, man, the classes are not in the Americas. They're global, and it's a banking thing that's going on. It really is. We're getting bankrupted from the inside out. We're at 40 trillion. The Federal Reserve Act, the fiat currency system, bailing out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in 2008, the trillions that got printed during COVID. That is a real problem.
Yeah, but
it's not Elon Musk, bro. It's a big banking cartel.
That's part of why there is such a significant difference in when it comes to what the left loves to talk about, wealth inequality, right? People that have money have access to money. People that don't have money don't have access to money. That makes sense, and that's true. But the way that Mamdani is framing it as the people that have money are actually oppressing the people that don't. That's just not how it works. The people that have money are the ones that are generally providing the jobs that the people that don't have enough money are working.
Well, there's levels of oppression, like when the bank hits you with a late fee or a $25 fee because you overdrafted $1.70. Okay, there's some oppression from rich people to poor people.
Just a side note here: no kids are going to sleep hungry. Our kids are fat. Childhood obesity.
There's a few things. Who is he talking about specifically? Three of these things.
They're going to bed fat.
I know you're talking about Elon Musk. I'm Australian. Who else are you talking about on this other stuff?
The left has stopped talking about people that don't get enough to eat or don't have enough food. Now they talk about food insecurity, as in there are people that don't have enough nutritious food. They have to move the goalpost because our system has been so successful that our poor people are fat now. Yeah. So the people that are poor in America, they tend to be overweight. You see fat homeless people, right? If you were really that poor, then you wouldn't be fat. And you can see that in places you look at, I saw this picture of a guy in Venezuela that was a storekeeper in Venezuela, and there's a picture before the socialists took over, and his store is stocked, and he's a little on the pudgy side, not sloppy, but he's got a bit of a belly, and then
he's well fed.
A decade later, it's a picture from the same spot in his store, right? And there's very few things on the background that are on the shelves behind him, and he's clearly significantly thinner because the socialist model doesn't actually work, and it's something that most of the people that are watching this show probably agree with that, but it's not something that you can actually argue against. There has been an experiment in socialism with different societies across the world, with different cultures. You got the North Korea, China. There's been all kinds of socialist experiments across all of Africa, all of South America. There's all kinds of different cultures that have tried socialism, and every single time it fails. It doesn't produce enough for people to eat, and you have famine. You have people that you are actually going hungry. And our society, the one that Mamdani is sitting here criticizing, we have fat people that are homeless. We have fat people that are poor because we have such a successful society that even the poor people, I was watching Caleb Hammer, and he was talking to a guest that was a socialist, and she was saying all the stupid platitudes, and he was like, how many Americans have, or what percentage of Americans have a smartphone? And she's like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. 98%. 98% of Americans, homeless people have cell phones. They have smartphones. Homeless people have computers. If you have the cognitive ability, because there are some people out there that have issues that the
mechanics don't work.
They can't actually use cell phones. They can't comprehend how to use them. But if you have the cognitive ability to use a cell phone, and probably a lot of people that don't have quite the cognitive ability to use a cell phone, they all have cell phones. They all have smartphones. They all have computers in their pockets.
I agree with you 100%. But I think one of the things, this is my take on socialism, communism, communitarianism, collectivism, is that when you look at Marxism, you look at what was supposed to be a form of government that was based on our understanding of what human nature was in, 1848? Was that when the Communist Manifesto was published, somewhere around there? So you're looking at and it's probably written well before that, right? So you're looking at an understanding of human nature from the perspective of Karl Marx in Russia?
1840.
In 1848.
No, he wrote I believe he was in England. He was a German.
So so you've got him writing this manifesto that is going to at least set the architecture for, later on, communism, socialism, whatever, based on an understanding that human beings are collectivists, that they are egalitarian, that they are all cooperating, communitarianism, right? Whereas in today, in the 21st century, we've plotted the human genome. We understand, we already have the history to back up the fact that there's never been a successful, version of socialism or communism that didn't end up in the Khmer Rouge or Pol Pot, or anything like that. But the thing is because we don't know what else to do. We don't have any other way to go from here. That's why one of the reasons why when we look at hierarchical systems, which capitalism is hierarchical, you got the president, you got all the way down the chain of command kind of thing. So you're looking at a hierarchy as a form of organizing society, as opposed to doing everything in the round and everybody's going to cooperate and everybody's on the same page, and the only way you can make them on the same page is through propaganda, is through maintaining this narrative so that everybody believes the same thing in this sort of social engineering experiment that has never been successful, because that's simply not the way the human mind works. It's not the way we evolved to work as human beings. Men want to compete with one another. Women tend to be the gatherers, men are the hunters, right? We organize society in hierarchies. Women tend to do it in the round, right? Tend to do it in egalitarian, communitarian ways of organizing society, right? Well, that's not the way that we have been able to, like you were saying, successfully organize a society. Certainly not in the West for as long as we've been doing it, right? So what I'm saying is this: when we look at what those old ways of organizing society were based on, they're based on an incomplete understanding of human nature. Now, how many, what are we, almost 200 years since then? More than that, right? Since then, and we have all of this knowledge and everything else, but yet we're still clinging to this guy who wrote the manifesto in 1848 with an understanding of human nature from 1848. And we're in 2026. It's like, dude, it's time to let's move the clock. Right. Let's move forward, please.
Well, I think the modern form of propaganda, especially from the left, but really from all politicians, when you're talking about welfare, they never say, hey, let's just give more money to the people that need it. Okay. Oh, we see that they're fat. We see that they have cell phones. Let's keep it. No, we got to keep doing that. But that needs to coexist with an investment in our school systems, with an investment in drug rehabilitation centers. And that's the propaganda now from both parties. But what's actually changed in the last 30 years in this stuff? Not a whole lot, whether it's Obama saying it, George Bush saying it, or whomever saying it. You know what I mean? And it's enough to get by, okay? Because the Republicans say, well, we don't want to give more into welfare. That doesn't make any sense. Let's invest here. Well, that should coexist with her as the other end. And you end up nowhere, exactly where we're at right now. The only breakthrough in that regard was, well, I'm not even going to go there. It'll change the whole subject, so go ahead.
I'm just reading into the government, because this whole communism, government owning corporations, it's kind of antithetical to the United States. We've basically been laissez-faire, hands-off, and we have the Postal Service. We have some. But over the last... this is blowing my mind. The U.S. has bought 26 corporations between 2025 and 2026. They invested in 26 corporations. They bought 10% of Intel between January of 25 and May of 26. the initial strategic deals, they did 16-month deals. They bought 15% stake in MP Materials. This is our government owns these corporations now. MP Materials. They're basically like, it looks like they're stealing for World War III. They're getting prepared in case there's a world war that breaks out, and they want to be able to compete with China's mobility, corporate mobility, their ability to mobilize and go into a wartime economy if they need to. But it's still like, it looks like communism on paper when the government starts buying corporations.
Yeah, I mean, they're buying stocks, right? So they're buying a portion, they're buying a certain percentage of stocks or a certain amount of stock. I don't think, and it's not a controlling
interest
amount. Yeah, it's not a controlling interest of the company. So I mean, look, if you're of the opinion the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers and shouldn't be buying stocks from private companies, then that's
I would want
legitimate argument.
I would want to see what those companies were and like how much they purchased of each one of those, and like what would be the possible reason that they would want to actually put money into
if I understand correctly,
and then you got to weigh that against how many big corporations, multinational corporations, are in the U.S. as it is anyways. So
if I understand, at least for the example that Ian brought up with Intel, part of the reason I think is because they want to actually have chips made in the U.S. The CHIPS Act isn't panning out the way that we had hoped, if I understand correctly. But we do need to have chip manufacturers in the United States because, for national security reasons.
Obviously. I was going to say the other thing is that it could be new technology that public's not aware of right now. That is still maybe in an experimental. So maybe it's quantum computing, right? Maybe it's quantum computing and pair quantum computing with AI. You're in a boatload of hurt.
Yeah, it's like metals companies, metallic. I'm pulling up a list of all the companies and what percent the government owns. MP Materials, Intel, Lithium, America, Trilogy Metals. They do U.S. rare earth, and it's like
all
10%.
They're making dog robots.
But all that stuff you're talking about
Black Mirror.
If you're talking about rare earth, you're talking about rare earths, you're talking about metals, you're talking about semiconductors. All that stuff is national security stuff.
E-Wave.
Hey, Ian, all that stuff is national
security. That's what they'll say
for
sure. They'll be like, I actually say it too. To compete with the Chinese, who own 51% of all their corporations at least, you kind of. I mean, it's not. It's an argument towards like. It looks like we're to defend against the corporation, you need to get a little state-owned. You need to be you need some national power.
Well, right now, all that stuff that you listed, rare earths and all the metallurgy and stuff like that's all stuff that we actually get from China now. So in my opinion, it's good that the government is actually investing in these companies to try to make sure that the U.S. has the ability to produce this stuff here. Right? I want lithium to be produced here because lithium-ion batteries go into everything that we use basically nowadays. I want there to be rare earth metals that the U.S. is mining here in the U.S. because we're getting it all from China. I want the government to be doing this stuff. I want the government to make sure that it has the ability to provide the things necessary to not just to the Defense Department, but primarily to the Defense Department or the Department of War. So that if there is a conflict with China, we're not screwed. China.
9 of the companies are quantum computing companies.
There it is.
$2 billion they've put so far into 9.
Put your money in quantum computing right now, boys. Crypto's down. The quantum computing is going up.
The crypto industry is like at half of where it was 6 months ago, and all the stocks are just exploding, going up. I think that's because the World Economic Order has seen that the United States is going to win. If there is a war, the U.S. has it unlocked since they took Venezuela, the way they brutalized Iran and about to take Cuba. They're like, you know what? We thought crypto was the global currency. It's actually U.S. stocks.
I don't think that we're going to take Cuba. I think that Cuba's just going to turn into a client state.
Dude, the people might start eating themselves if the power's
out. Hey, speaking of which, that's a good segue.
Yeah. So,
can I say one thing about that
nice
last
segue?
subject? I just reflecting back to the 21st century politics thing. When you talk about Spencer Pratt running for governor in California, commenting on what the current mayor of New York is saying, right? That's 21st century politics. They know it's going to get. How many views did you say it had?
7.5 million as of last time I checked, which was earlier today.
All politics are local until they're not.
Well, what's a prospective governor of California have to do with the New York mayor? They have nothing to do with each other, right? So anyway,
like I said, I like the fact that he was talking about it just because he's talking about communism.
They know that 4 years from now,
he's anticipating social media clicks too, though.
Dana White's going to get him down to the UFC. UFC facility, and they're just going to fire it out in a fucking cage. I don't know why not. I would see that. I would pay for
broadcast it on Kick.
I don't know how strong Spencer Pratt is. I've never seen him.
I work with let's wear this bring down the powerhouse. So we can make
Mamdani couldn't put up. He had a bar in 235s. He couldn't put up 115.
Now he's got 4 years of training.
I know it's a big ask to ask somebody to run for president, but I'd love to see Spencer Pratt run for president with Marco Rubio and JD Vance, because I think Marco and JD are kind of buttoned up right now, at least behind the Trump wall that they're in. They're in the buffer. They're in the firewall. So I think Spencer's like this fireball from outside that will like light it up and force those guys to like normalize and match his like alpha energy.
Well,
on a stage.
You'll see if Rubio and Vance decide that they're going to run for president. You'll see come in a year from now they'll be clearly running. They'll have announced, because it's the primary or the midterms are this fall, and then January, February, and March you'll hear people start making announcements that they're running. So you'll know by next summer. So. But we're going to, speaking of Cuba, we're going to jump to this story from the AP. Island blackout hits Cuba as its fuel reserve dwindles and aging grid crumbles. Let's see. Havana, Cuba. An island-wide blackout hit Cuba on Monday as the country's fuel reserves dwindle and its electric grid continues to crumble. The blackout in the country of nearly 10 million people was reported by the state-run electric union, which said on X that the cause is under investigation. The Ministry of Energy and Mines wrote on X that it has activated protocols to restore electricity. Fuel has been running out across Cuba since January, when U.S. President Donald Trump threatened tariffs on any country that sells or provides oil to the island, deepening the island's ongoing economic and financial crisis. Public transportation has been largely halted, and officials have canceled tens of thousands of surgeries. Energy Minister Vincent de la Oleve said microsystems were already operating through Cuba a couple of hours after the outage. Vital services continue to be protected amidst this complex situation, exacerbated by the energy blockade we face. They've already said that they're going to open up some markets, which is progress, because Cuba has been, one of the only, I'm pretty sure the only truly communist country. Well, no, Venezuela was pretty much a socialist country. So it's one of the only truly socialist countries in the Western Hemisphere, at least. Yeah. And they have been basically backwards for the entire time. They've been falling further and further behind the rest of the world.
So this will be interesting how big of a deal this starts to become. Right now it's not really even the top story in the news, right? Or it kind of is, but not really. But if you really look into it, it comes from Cuba's oil supplier being Venezuela, and now Trump saying anyone that gives Cuba any oil, they're going to issue tariffs. So no one's giving oil now. So if people start starving there and go, you know what I mean? We're going to have a little bit of a problem.
Cuba doesn't, because of Cuba's, from my limited understanding of Cuba, they don't have a lot of problems when it comes to feeding people, because Cuba actually said, look, everybody grow a garden.
Okay.
Right? So they've got a 365-day-a-year growing season. It's always warm. They get plenty of rain. There's no reason for anybody in Cuba to starve, because they've got plenty of arable land. So if they do end up having issues with feeding their people, it's because of government policy.
So the power that they could produce on their own in Cuba only represents 40% of what they need, though. So the food and stuff's fine, but they still need 60% more, I guess, of oil to operate as they do. And I'm just saying, worst case scenario, this thing spirals in a certain way and Trump gets blamed for it.
Well, I think that no matter what, Trump's going to get blamed for it because of the situation in Venezuela. But I think this is actually going to be a good thing, overall.
I was going to say,
it's gonna be good for Cuba.
Okay, because now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was last week that Trump was actually mentioning Cuba and saying he was going to provide aid to the people of Cuba, not going through the government of Cuba so that it would then get to the people. But he was directly going to, send money, or send aid, send some kind of resources to the people of Cuba just a few weeks, or at least a week ago. I know that. And now this.
Well, he's trying to prevent happen he's trying to prevent from happening what I'm saying.
Obviously, appealing to the populace of Cuba is probably a better idea than trying to work with the government there, because essentially one of the reasons there's the embargo is because they don't want China to come in there and essentially own that prime real estate, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why we didn't want the Russians there in the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, especially when you think of the fact that the Gulf of America now has so much oil industry in it, right? Like, so you've got Houston has a bunch of refineries, I guess, in the area, and with the U.S. being an exporter now, you want to make sure that Cuba is not hostile to the U.S. Not that they're going to attack, but like, look, the where Cuba sits, right? You have to travel pretty close to Cuba to get to anywhere in the Gulf.
Yeah.
And that's going to matter.
90 miles to Florida. So the Cuban president says, Trump's trying to incite social unrest by strangling Cuba's fuel supply, which it's probably true.
Yeah.
So I'm more. So
I was like, yeah, that's probably what's going on.
Not kind of what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. But do we know? Because I don't know. What's the end game? What could Cuba's government do to fix this with the United States? What could even happen?
Well, I think that
what are we trying to accomplish here?
I think if you look at what happened in Venezuela,
I was
right?
say regime change.
Yeah. So even if you don't, and I don't think Trump cares if it's Raul Castro that's in charge or someone else. I think he just wants someone that's going to play ball with the U.S. and have open markets. Okay. So I think if Cuba opens up their markets and says, okay, we're going to stop being hostile to the U.S., we're definitely not going to, we're going to do business with the U.S., we're not going to be in bed with China or in bed with Russia or what have you, then I think that could normalize relations. Yeah. And then the U.S. would be like, okay, cool.
Are we even having those kinds of conversations with them right now? This is like just a few little guys.
Yeah, there have been people from the State Department that have gone down there and talked. I think that Rubio might have gone down. I could be wrong, but this is something that I think that Rubio wants really bad. Obviously, he's a Cuban American.
Yeah. So I think we cut them off in like late March. From what I read somewhere, it was late March. So we're only in July. This is.
Which, of course, would be why he's like reaching out to the people of Cuba right now to say, hey, shit's going to happen, but like, we're going to, we're here for you guys, right? Yeah. He wants exclusivity is what he wants, exclusivity of Cuba. Look at where Trump has gone in just the short amount of time, what, year and a half, 2 years that he's been in? Yeah. He's looking at what, Greenland? Iceland? Greenland. Okay. Venezuela and now Cuba. Okay, what is the strategic significance of all of those locations? Right. What do they have in Venezuela? What do they have in Cuba? Like, well, Cuba is obvious. They don't want missiles aimed at at Florida, right? And then of course you can look at the geopolitical significance of Greenland right there.
Close to Russia.
Yeah, close to Russia. Yeah. So
I mean, we had a guest on that was saying that Cuba is basically like a staging area for Chinese spy tech right now, and they're spying hard. So if we're sieging, essentially, we're not sieging them. We're just we're sanctioning them. It's a nice modern form of siege warfare, but. If then we strangled out their government to capitulation, it would be like a brutal behind the scenes like reformation of who's who.
Well, I mean, it's real estate. Like what natural resources do they have that China would want in the first place?
Nothing.
They want the land. They want to be able to position things.
It's like our Taiwan or their Taiwan right now. That's also crossed my mind. Like if we took Cuba by force, would that just be like?
I don't think there's any reason to think that there's going to be some kind of military invasion of Cuba or anything.
It would have to be a liberation. It would be poised as a liberation of the people. They need it. They want it.
I think that it's all going to be economic pressure. Because we can do it, clearly.
Yeah, right? That's what it says. Social unrest to pressure it. I mean,
so like either a governor gets bribed and turns in his buddies, or there's an assassination behind the scenes, and then they come join.
That social unrest just causes the government
completely
to shift
bloodless.
past.
Yeah, completely bloodless.
Yeah, it might be a little optimistic on our part, but
this is the way that it seems to be going. The U.S. we haven't had any kind of kinetic operations over Cuba. The U.S. hasn't had to send in any troops. And Cuba is basically their country economically. They're getting crushed. And the U.S. is like, look, we'll stop this. Just open up your markets for your people.
And it's collateral damage for Cuba. Doing what we did to Venezuela. Get Cuba too out of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the whether or not you think the operation in Venezuela was a good idea, it's clearly worked. Right? We're what are we 5 months past or whatever? Got Maduro out. The vice president was like, okay, I'll work with you, and everything has changed now, and they've got diplomatic ties with the U.S. And we're getting their oil. I know that the oil companies have started working back in Venezuela to try and get the oil
wait
rigs
till we annex
working again
Greenland. It's time to annex Greenland.
Trump said Canada's going to be a state at one point. You never watched that there.
None of these places can be states. I'm very firm on my disagreement about the idea of any of these
The
places being
all-feminist
states.
government of Greenland is just bristling right now.
But look,
We're coming for you.
the U.S. is probably they're probably not going to take Greenland. They're probably just going to open up some more bases because look, at the end of the day, you've got less ice, on the polar ice caps. If that happens, and Russia can actually build ports in the north, because right now they don't have any ports that they can use. I think they've got one in the Black Sea that they can get out, but you have to go through the Black Sea and then through the Mediterranean. Otherwise, they don't have any real significant way to reach most of the world, Europe and North America and stuff. If they get those ports open, the U.S. wants to be able to monitor what they're doing. Plus, Greenland is close to Russia. Comparatively. Right now, you look at where the F-22 is stationed. They're stationed in Alaska and Hawaii because of being able to protect power. Right. If Russia decides that they're going to use bombers, you can scramble jets from Alaska and from Hawaii, or if China decides they're going to do something like that, you can scramble scramble interceptors from Alaska and Hawaii. They want to be able to do that with Greenland. They want to have they've got a new, I think it's it'll be the F-47, I think is what the new one's going to be called. But they've got a new jet, new interceptor. It's a 6th generation fighter jet that they've already started the infrastructure in Alaska for this to be able to house the jets there. They want to do that in Greenland, I imagine.
Okay.
So
why not?
I mean, look, this is all the stuff that Trump is getting hell for. This is all about being able to protect the United States and make sure that the United States is economically
positioning
secure.
us to keep us where we're at, or to security in 2030.
Yeah, and we've talked about. I mean, I'm probably looking at 2050, but we talked about on this channel. We've talked about a lot how the Democrats are looking to avoid Thucydides' trap, right? Where there's a rising power and an aging power, and if the rising power gets powerful enough, they're eventually gonna go to war. The Democrats were like, we don't want to go to war, so we're gonna go ahead and have a managed decline of the United States. We're gonna pull back, and we'll go ahead and have a multipolar world where China and Russia and the U.S. kind of have their own. And Trump's just like, hell with that. Why don't we just win?
Yep.
I forget the guy's name, but he was the administrator of, I believe it was not Shanghai. I'm spacing on his name, but he's like, look, I love the American idea. The American idea is we start from nothing and we beat you. And that's the way that the Americans have always been. We start from zero and we beat you. You get a head start and we still win. That's something that's very, very American. And personally, I think that if we have the ability, which I don't think that we don't have the ability to do those kind of things, why not? Why should we just say, okay, we're going to go ahead and allow our country to decline? We should be doing things to ensure that our children and our grandchildren and our grandchildren's children enjoy the same kind of lifestyle that we have.
You look at the moves that China made really during Biden when China's moving into like West Africa, Kenya, and why? Because they're picking up the resources in there. They're helping the population at the same time, but they're essentially doing what Trump is doing right now, going in there because they have some sort of either resource significance or they have strategic significance. They go in there and they can help out the local, very depressed third world economy of that population, and then annex that resource or annex that territory. We don't hear about it because we're not privy to Chinese publication what's going on in China. But when Trump does it, suddenly it's colonization. Suddenly it's a war of aggression or something. No, he's just basically he's playing the long game.
Yeah.
So finally, somebody's playing the long game because China's been playing the long game for a while now.
Well, and especially with areas like Africa and the Middle East, you wonder if Trump's criticized more heavily just because of the whole Muslim versus Christian Western values thing that doesn't come into play when China does things like that, to a degree at least.
Yeah, I forget who it was. It doesn't. The Google's failing me here. But yeah, look, the U.S. has the ability to produce all the things that we need here, right? Like the continent itself is basically uninvadable. You know, you can't, no one's ever going to be able to invade the United States. You've got the Rockies on one side, you've got the Appalachians on the other, you've got...
Yeah, but it makes for a great movie.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? If you, I mean, just look at...
You know, Red Dawn, the remake. Not the original, not the remake. The
original was good. The remake was North Korea. That wasn't so good. But look, I mean, the geography of the United States is... like, I understand why the people that came here and you know, created this country. I understand why they thought that it was divine providence. You look at the Mississippi Basin, like the Mississippi is a unique river in the whole world, basically, right? It's very, very, there's not a lot of rapids, and you can get to the entire interior. If you look at the watershed for the Mississippi, you know, it's like it covers like 35 or 40% of the whole country. You can get all the way up to like North Dakota on the Mississippi, and it's all generally pretty flat, and it's easy to, there's no rapids. You can traverse the whole thing, and that's part of why we're such an economic powerhouse. We can do anything in the United States that we really need to. We have all the natural resources. We're an oil exporter. We have all of the rare earth metals that China does. We just haven't mined them. We're the place that makes the silicone that everybody uses for their chips. Yeah. You know, it comes out of North Carolina. Yeah. Like all of the chips, it's 99.99999% pure. You have to make the crucible out of the silicone because when you're trying to grow the silicone, the wafers are basically, they make a tube of silicone and they chop it into like a millimeter thick. You have to make the crucible out of the same silicone, because it'll contaminate it. It has to be pure, and it's the purest silicone in the world. Like, and all that's made, that comes from all the silicone chips that go everywhere. It all comes from North Carolina. There's one mine in North Carolina. We have everything we need. So why should we just say, okay, we're going to go ahead and give up? That's one of the things that I actually really, really like about Trump is he's like, no, we're pro-America, and we're going to keep America as the preeminent power in the world, and there's no reason we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, this is going to sound really callous, but this is a thought experiment. Let's just, for example, there used to be a time when the UK was called the British Empire, right? Meaning they would go and expand into Africa and you know, South Africa, and you had French Guyana. You had the French would go and colonize places. Spain went and took the Philippines. There was a time where conquest was not a bad word. It was just what we did, right? Yep. That was it showed. What was it? There used to be a saying, I think it was in the UK or the British, was the sun never goes down on the British Empire, right? Because it's a global empire, like all the way to Hawaii, for crying out loud, right? So it's interesting to me that when we start when we're doing expansion, because technically that's what it is. Cuba would be expansion. Venezuela would be expansion. If we get into Greenland, that would be expansion, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's like some war of conquest. But it's still expansionism. It's still us claiming territory, and maybe just if in only in name, only. We're not saying this is going to be the next state of Venezuela's not going to be the next state of 51st state, but the thing is like it's this mentality of, I mean, I understand, especially in the latter half of the 20th century, certainly into where we're at right now with this, more of this liberal progressive kind of thing. We're embarrassed that that we did all this stuff and stolen lands and everything else. And I'm like, why don't we think in the opposite terms anymore? Why don't we think in terms of like conquest? Why don't we think in terms of like, the British Empire, the French going on to wherever they did, us going into, I mean, we took Hawaii, right? And Alaska, well, I bought Alaska, I guess. But the thing is that, expansionism is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if it protects your own interests.
This came up earlier, we're talking about Cuba, because when the Americans basically freed Cuba from the Spanish Empire in 1898, they call it the Spanish-American War, they decided, okay, now we have Cuba, what are we going to do? Let's free Cuba. Let's not do the empirical conquistador thing. We're not taking it for ourselves. We're going to let Cuba be a free, sovereign piece of land. And it became that, and then it became a communist dictatorship, because we had given it away for free. Had we made it ours, had we taken it and conquered it, and it would probably be a beautiful American state right now. So it's sort of an argument for for conquest.
Colonialism was an unmitigated good. I know that people are going to get worked up about that.
Boy, your niche is going to love that
I don't know
one.
what part of the stick
Did you hear what Phil Labonte said?
It was. It produced like all the colonized areas that all the countries that were colonized, like they have a better society now because of it.
It definitely helped uniform technology and enhance like the speed that technology grows. We have running water, electricity, and it was able to centralize in the British Empire. All the foods were able to centralize, and they could spread it out to their colonies.
The British ended slavery globally. The British ended slavery. Like there's still some places that do have it, but when the British said we're not doing slavery anymore in the colonies, and you're not doing slavery anymore either. Like that was an unmitigated good, and it was the British that did that. Like they did. So
my brain's going to the corporations now, because then the British East India Company took over. That was the biggest military on the planet, I think, at that point.
Dutch East India Company.
It was the Dutch East India Company. It was the biggest military on the planet, and it was a corporation. So, like with conquest of Mars that we're about to see on the horizon, the conquest of the moon, probably orbital conquest. I don't know how that's going to work. Like space. Locations.
There's nobody on Mars to colonize.
There's no one to kill. We'll just colonize it without having to displace.
There has to be a reason
locals.
for us to go there. That should be something we really need.
It might be corporate.
Is Mars going to be?
I watch For All Mankind.
Mars going to be. If you play that game, Terraforming Mars, it's corporations that take it and colonize it. So it's like Shadowrun future, like. IBM will have a piece. SpaceX will have a piece.
What do you think? What's the number after trillion? What's the next level? Quadrillion.
Quadrillion.
And CNN's going to be reporting about Elon Musk being a quadrillion.
Well, I mean, look, space is real big, man.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're mining asteroids,
they're going to own Mars.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, and if you believe Musk, the point of going there is to making sure.
Now we're getting into the expanse, right?
Well, I mean, if you believe Musk, the point of going there is to make sure that if something catastrophic happens on Earth, there's another place for human beings to go.
Can we make Mars a communist utopia?
No.
Where everybody owns everything?
No, the gravity is too low.
They'll escape. It's
too small.
The real communists won't.
You'll be able to run faster. Yes, you'll run much faster.
That's the only problem with this.
Helicopters work differently on Mars.
Work differently on Mars, man.
Because if we don't make it a pure communist utopia for real with technology somehow where people collectively own the space, it's going to be corporately controlled or...
It's likely that it'll be SpaceX.
Is this the plot of Interstellar? Have you guys seen Interstellar? Yeah. I think we just talked the plot.
Was it corporations that were colonizing?
No, you have to watch For All Mankind. For All Mankind is it's turned into a decent show.
You had to leave this solar system. You had to leave the Milky Way to survive because, anyway, Interstellar. It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
I don't know. I'm super sensitive to corporate governance.
I love it when we get on these topics.
Yeah.
Space?
No, just science fiction. Like, hey, moving towards you think we get to Venus?
Ian wants to talk about companies.
Corporate governance.
He wants to talk about companies.
I'm down to talk about space exploration and conquest
Wayland
too, but
Yutani?
the corporations, they want to do it. They had environmental social governance, which was ESG. They were trying to do all this out of Switzerland.
Well, that wasn't so much corporations that were doing it. There were motivated people trying to impose that on corporations.
Yeah, the World Economic Forum. They were trying to get the corporations to govern. They want to displace nationalism with corporatocracy. Yeah. So I'm concerned with that. In that instance, I identify with the communists. How they're like, look, the corporations are too big. They have too much power. We need
the
people need the power. We need to take the power back, and then that breeds the communist mentality of we together are strong. And then inevitably, a small group of people gets into power and then seizes control, which they call the vanguard. It's.
Well, I mean, you could still. I mean, okay. Well, let's reel this back to planet Earth here.
We started off with British colonization.
Exactly. We're talking about expansionism and stuff, but we also don't live in the times of the British Empire now. I mean, we still have corporations, but the corporations that we have in the 21st century are nothing like the Dutch East India Company, right? So you also have to consider that if we're moving into countries like Venezuela, or we're moving into Trump says, hey, we're going to give the people of Cuba a lot of money. We're going to help you guys out. Well, where's that coming from? Where's the money? Is it coming from the U.S. taxpayers, or is it coming from corporate interests? Or is he selling rights to something that we don't know about in Cuba? Or, for instance, there might be military contracts in Greenland that we need to build, like bases or airstrips or something like that. You're still promising those contracts and those those business deals to, the military industrial complex too. So there has to be, you've got to be able to balance the corporate interests with the government, the populace interests as well. When you can get those two to sort of like dovetail into each other, that's when you're cooking. But you also have to look at, like, say, like communist China is ostensibly communist because it's really oligarchs and it's really, major corporate interests that are ostensibly communists. The government is communist because it's what they have. They need to keep that population, the billions population, in check. But who's really pulling the strings in China? It's corporations.
Yeah, it's not they're not communists. They say it and they lie. Communism means that all the people in the country collectively own the stuff together. China is just another instance of vanguardism. It's the same thing Lenin, when he got his communist movement and tricked everyone into thinking, they established what's called a vanguard, which is a small group of people that take control of the military, and they're just going to be there temporarily, is what they say. Same with the CCP. It's a vanguard party. It's just going to be temporary, guys, until we make a real communist. But then they always, both in the Soviet Union and in China, they betrayed the people with a vanguard. Any communist nation turns out to be a small dictatorial group. It has yet to be explored or potentially shown that it can function as a national government. Like in a tiny group of 6 people, you could easily have a communist setup where everyone works their ass off and everyone gets what they need. That's fine, but it doesn't scale. At least not yet, because you have middlemen.
Yeah, and it never will scale because human nature is competition. Human nature is wanting to outdo the next dude. Human nature is essentially capitalism, really. It's a hierarchy. And when you try to force that hierarchy into this egalitarian, doing everything in a circle, it doesn't work because sooner or later human nature is going to take over and some guy's going to want more than the next guy because he gets more pussy for that, or he gets a good car for that, or he gets a better house for that, or something else. So there's always that want to outdo. I mean, and by the way, that's a good thing. Yeah. That's what keeps us from stagnating. That's what keeps innovation going. I want to do something more. Why? Well, because I want to win. I want to fucking win.
Yeah.
Right?
But if you win too much, guys like Mondani say you can't have a trillionaire. You want a little too much, pal.
Well, I want to win. You don't want me to win. So guess what happens next?
I want a bunch of trillionaires. I want Jeff Bezos to be a
trillionaire. Exactly. Elon Musk always say that. Come join me. Let's go. Come join me. I mean, I think the realisticness of people becoming trillionaires is not real, but multimillionaire, billionaire.
Yeah, look, when SpaceX went public, there was like 4,400 new millionaires in the U.S.
Is that right? Wow. Good for them.
For owning stock because SpaceX was paying their people in money and stock options. And the people that took it, one of the dudes was a janitor. One of the people was a cook for SpaceX, and they're millionaires now because SpaceX
generational wealth overnight.
And like there's a bunch of people. There was like 400 people that made over $100 million. Now probably those are people that were in the upper echelon of the management and stuff, but still, like when your company goes public and you make 4,400 people millionaires. Like that's not oppressing people. That is not oppressing people. The people that work at SpaceX and the people that work for these companies, like they have good things that are happening for them. And companies like Amazon or companies like Walmart, like if it wasn't for Amazon, tons of Americans couldn't get the things that they need on a daily basis sent to their house. They'd have to go ahead and go to the store or whatever. Things like Walmart, like they provide products that are inexpensive generally, and people that don't have a lot of money can go and get the stuff they need. This isn't, and they provide a bunch of jobs. Now, granted, they're not the greatest jobs, but look, people need to be able to pay their bills somehow. Right. And if you don't have these big companies, then you lose all the jobs that go along with them.
Well, and the other thing about that is you want to be able to at least entertain the idea, as hopeless or as hopeful as it might be, that you can better your state at some point along the way.
Right.
I might be living not the way I want to now, but because I'm doing this, I'm working towards a goal, I'm competing, I'm doing something else that maybe somewhere down the line, I'm going to be doing better. My kids might be doing better. Even if it's just the promise of that. See, that's the thing is like, I've mentioned this on my show several times, is that the defining state of that defines humanity is really discontent. It's not contentment.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. It's good to be discontent.
Right.
Because that's what drives innovation. That's what drives, I want to do something. I want to create something.
Yeah.
I want to do something more. So people will say, well, I'm going to go get my degree at this 4-year college. Okay, I got it. Now what I want? Oh, my master's degree. Okay, I got my master. I want to get my doctor's degree. Right. There's always some other. You might be content for a little while, but the fundamental nature of human beings is discontent. It defines a human condition is discontent. And the problem with communism, or let's say Marxism, because I don't want to split hair, but it's going to tell me that's not the communism. Yeah. Marxism, let's just go with that. Okay. The reason why I was mentioning that Marxism had an incomplete understanding of human nature is because it never takes into account the defining human state of discontent. Discontent is a feature, not a bug. That's what that's what keeps us going. We don't stagnate. But when we're put into a condition where we're supposed to be content with what we're given, you're gonna own nothing and be happy, right? No, you're at the not. Because you're going to be discontent. There's always going to be something. There's going to be a new mountain to climb. There's always going to be a new challenge to go after. And one of the reasons I think that a lot of this generation's young men today are so despondent right now, for lack of a better term, is because they're told that they should be content and they don't know why that they're discontent, right? Because they don't have any new frontiers to go conquer. You want to know why video games are such an immersive sedation for young men today? Is because it gives them an artificial experience of a frontier or competition. You want to know how competitive like Gen Z young men are? Watch them play Fortnite. Watch them play any first person shooter game, and you'll see just how competitive they can be, right? And it's like, so the fundamental defining state of humanity is really discontent, and it's not contentment. And like I said, that's a feature, not a bug. And so any form of government or organizing society that doesn't take that into account is doomed to fail.
And I know you want to switch gears here. I just want to add one thing to that on top of it. I agree with everything you just said. And also the ideology within the members of that society. If we're both making $100,000 right now and you make $25,000 next year, that don't mean I make $75,000 now. There's plenty of space for growth where we all can make that 125. You know what I mean? And people that are anti this ideology just don't think that's the case. It's one taken from the other.
Yeah, they have the idea that there's a finite amount of money or a finite amount of whatever, and that the goal isn't to try to produce more. The goal is to make sure that everyone has a certain amount of what exists. With people that are that have a producing mindset, they're like, well, we can make more.
Well, and I talk about this on my page a lot of times too. It's like, why you hate on somebody for winning? You could join that person, win as well. It doesn't mean just because he won, you lost. Yeah, you know what I mean.
We were talking before the show today. We were talking about people that have I call it the team good times and team bum out, right? Like if you're on team good times, team bum out, then like something bad happens or whatever, right? Like if you're on team good times and something bad happens. We were actually relating this. I was talking about like being on tour with the band and stuff. We were just on tour. And bad stuff happens, right? Like we had our tour manager the very first day of the tour. He got a call and he found out that his grandfather was in hospice, and so he's going to have to leave the tour. And it was like, all right, well, this is our tour manager, and he's doing sound too. So we're like, all right, well, how do we fix this, right? And because we have everybody in the band is on Team Good Times, we're like, all right, well, this sucks. And we know you got to go, and like we know you got to take care of your family first and stuff. So how are we going to get through this? How what are we going to do? If you're on Team Bum Out, you're like, oh man, this sucks. Our tour's screwed, and we're not going to be able to play the shows, and we're going to blah 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 blah. And like your attitude towards whatever presents itself is really, really, really important. And if you have the attitude, if you have like a negative mindset, or you have the mindset of, look, this isn't, I can't do this, like you were saying, like you have the attitude of I'm going to lose out if this other person does well. Right. Like, that is a terrible, terrible way to go through life. You have to be on Team Good Times.
Yep. There's a balance in business. You need good mentality, optimism. Pessimism in business should get you fired if you're trying to poison the minds of the executives. Like, get out. get out of the way.
Yeah.
But
you can't be an entrepreneur and have a negative
But
mindset.
there's the situations where Trump will be like, "It's the best we've ever had. We're breaking records," and it's like lies, and you're like, okay, you do want to be optimistic, but also you want to be realistic. But maybe you do want to trick people in business and lead them towards your goal, even if there's pitfalls in the way. But it's like there's other people who are like, it's all terrible and it's failing, and we need to. So, I mean, either extreme probably is a big problem.
No.
Extreme optimism to the point where you have to lie to people about it.
Totally disagree.
And extreme pessimism where you can't get yourself out of it.
What Trump does is actually BSing people, right? And it's one thing to BS people, and it's totally different to be like, no, I'm going to take these risks, and I'm going to figure out how to solve the problems that are inevitably going to arise. That's Team Good Times. If you're just like, well, I'm going to lie about it, you can't realistically have a business and then just lie about the results all the time because you'll end up crashing, destroying your business.
Well, I don't disagree with what you said. I don't completely agree, but I think if you look at it in the framework of a corporation, compare what Trump's doing with a business. All right, in that situation, if this guy gets the promotion, there's only one spot for that assistant manager job. You did lose out. He got that, and you can't get it. You know what I mean? Now, if that really bothers you, there's alternatives. Go be an entrepreneur, create your own jobs, and take your future into your own hands. And I talk about that a lot. But I think Trump's approach, and I agree with the way you framed it actually. But I think Trump has to look at this like, all right, not everyone's going to be that winning entrepreneur. We got to take an approach that, all right, you're doing something here that matters. Collectively.
Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna go to your super chats.
We're gonna do a Las Vegas story here in a second.
We're gonna talk about this in the after show. Actually,
the after show. Okay. Yeah, where it's safe.
Yeah, because you don't want to.
Yeah.
This is a spicy topic and
words in it.
Can very easily turn into a problem for YouTube. So we're going to go to your super chat. So head on over to timcast.com, become a member, go to Rumble and join Rumble so you can watch the after show, smash the like button, share the show with all your friends. Tell everybody you know that you watch Timcast and tell them that they should as well. So right now we got, let's see, we're going to go to your Rumble rants first. Let's see, what do we got? From Connor SO2. Baby Theodore was born on July 4th, the semi-quincentennial. There you go. Semi-quincentennial. He is a strong baby and will one day lead millions. Theodore is a great name, I must say. But congratulations to you having a son. That's good to hear.
Well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have more.
Have more. Let's see. From Hans1 PK, he says they are buying non-voting shares rather than doing bailouts. It's not communism like Ian likes to say. What do you have to say about that, Ian? They're buying shares. They're non-voting shares, so they're not buying a controlling interest.
Right. They're not picking up over 51% of anything.
So it's like investing in the company. Is that still?
They own 10% of a bunch of different companies. It's a very BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street model of corporate ownership. 10% of a bunch of different stuff. 10% IBM, 10% of Apple, 10% of Microsoft.
You own stocks, but you own stocks, don't you?
Palantir.
Yeah. I don't know how deep Palantir's public, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you own stocks?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the government owning purchasing stocks, especially when they're in corporations or when they're in industries that are necessary for national security.
I'm with it, but the downside, kind of what Rollo was saying earlier, is like you want competition and you want to know that I can come from nothing and win. But if I want to start a tech company, but the government's favorite is IBM, and I can't get off the ground because everyone's with IBM now because it's the sure thing, that completely destroys the ethos of the United States capitalistic market. So you got to be careful. It's a slippery road, and it's only going on for like 2 years.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So
it has been intensely for 2 years.
Let's see. AK Storm says, I think of every embarrassing thing I did in high school and question if I could run for local school board. What the hell was Platner thinking? Look, man, I've said it before. I am never going to run for anything. I will never hold any public office. Like I spent a lot of time on tour in a band, and a lot of that time I spent drunk. So there will never. I feel your comment. I understand what you're saying.
She said he was intoxicated. Maybe you don't remember.
Well, I mean, I know I've never done that, but you know, the whole like, you know,
who was the
history
the
kind of
Supreme
thing.
Court justice that got confirmed during Me Too? What was it?
Kavanaugh?
Kavanaugh. Yeah.
They just lied about it.
He went up
Remember
a
when
girl's
you were
shirt, so-
16 at that kegger party in the backyard there, and you pulled that girl's pigtails?
Exactly.
That
You
was
unsnapped her bra when you were 14.
Christine Blasey Ford and all her BS,
And,
all that, like that whole thing. I was just like, this is so ridiculous, and the Democrats were so like just clutching their pearls. How terrible, and then like
God.
you know, Platner's got actual people that are making accusations.
Me Too was
They're
a
just like, oh.
psyop. It was basically so they could weaponize it because they thought they were going to get Trump with Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
never
yeah.
flew.
Oh, yeah.
How can we use this? Oh, Kavanaugh.
Stormy
Let's go
Daniels,
back in
too.
time. Let's go back in time and see if we can get him.
Before social media, before the age of TV and radio, like horrible men did great things for the world many
Damn
times,
right.
and now we're this age of like where people are gauging your your ethics, your behavior in your personal life, and like we got to be real careful that we don't devolve into like stopping evil men from doing great things, because we still need great things to be done, whether it comes from a demonic, womanizing, lying, gambling addict, or you know, daddy's little girl. I don't give a shit. The good thing needs to get done, so we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot with virtue.
I'm gonna channel my inner Mike Sartain right now. We elected the president twice. This guy who actually was cheating on his wife while she was pregnant with a porn star. Nobody cares. We still reelected that guy, right? We had O.J. Simpson, right? He was partying at Jing right up until he died, right? Nobody cares, right? Think about all of the. What was it? Wolf of Wall Street. What's the guy was the name?
Jordan Belfort.
Jordan Belfort, right? Punches his pregnant wife in the gut to abort the baby, gets a movie made about him, and is one of the top paid inspirational speakers still today.
Sales coaching.
Nobody cares. No one cares.
Yeah.
So after that's the whole thing that was funny about like the Kavanaugh thing is like no, like me too. Nobody cares.
Yep.
No one is going to care. Everybody's moved on to the next news cycle right after that. So
There's a balance, because you don't want psychopaths doing
No, of course
evil
not.
and teaching the world to
Yeah.
be more evil. But
I'm saying
if
that
someone's an evil person,
like even the guy who what's the guy's name in Maine? Platner. You're going to forget about him in 2 weeks once he's pulling out. Let's just be honest. Once he pulls out, you won't even remember. I can remember his name right now, because nobody's going to care about that guy come November, the second Tuesday in November.
It'll go away. I agree with all that. You know what part of pissing me off though, like cops, like people are not being cops now because of the public scrutiny, and there's definitely, to your point, I think this was part of your point at least, people that just don't go into politics because they don't want to deal with this bullshit.
Yeah.
That could have been great politicians.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a question of is it worth it? It's like, especially people that are really successful.
Well, also, especially if you don't know if you're going to fucking, or excuse me, I'm sorry. Especially if you don't know, I knew it was going to happen. Sorry.
It's okay. We're so late in the show. It's fine.
Do not swear, John. This is not your Instagram. But well, no, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, especially if you don't know you're going to win.
Yeah.
So you got this history. You don't even know if you're going to win the damn thing. And you know.
Yeah, and it's like you get people that are very successful in business and whatever. What's the incentive to leave what they're doing?
Yeah.
To go. I mean, just for an example, you look at Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
He was a darling of the left. They loved him. Blah 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 blah. And as soon as he's like, I'm going to start talking about politics, they started blowing up Tesla dealerships, blowing up the green. He was going to save.
It's crazy.
He's going to save the environment because he's got solar. He bought Solar City and turned it into Tesla Solar, and he's making batteries. He's got electric cars and blah 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 blah. And then as soon as he has the wrong opinion, he has politically incorrect opinions. They're firebombing Tesla dealerships and keying Teslas. And my Tesla, I had 4 tires get.
Really?
I ran over 4 different nails or whatever. I had to replace 4 tires over the course of about a month and a half or 2 months, because and it was all when this stuff was happening. I never saw anyone do it. I didn't know for sure, but I mean, it's like if all of your tires end up picking up
Camaro.
That's a lot of nails in a short period of time.
a lot, and you know, those tires ain't cheap either, man.
That's true.
If you're thinking about going into politics, though, and you have a domestic battery, you have a DUI, you've done anything ever with somebody underage, you're going to have a very uphill battle. I think we could all
I
agree.
could run for politics.
If you haven't done those three things, you might have a chance.
Lead with a confessional.
Let's see. Marussia Dark 316 says, practically speaking, what can be done about ethnic enclaves that are made up of legal immigrants and citizens to further incentivize integration? I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into this. I don't really know.
Move there when you're young. Go live with them. That's what I did. It was highly recommended.
Yeah, well, he's talking about breaking them up so that way, breaking up the enclaves so that way you can make sure that people get integrated.
Help them integrate. Well, I didn't want to break them up. I just wanted to become part of the community, to learn their customs. They learned my customs. We would hang out. I'd hang out with a bunch of dudes that spoke only Spanish, a bunch of illegals. Hung out in New York and Crown Heights with the black dudes, that whole, all of it, man. If you want to be in like a cultural, if you want to affect culture, you got to go be part of that culture. I mean, you don't gotta, but that's one way. Integrate with
you learn how to
them.
speak jive.
Change it from the inside out every day, Ray.
You learn how to speak jive.
That's kind of not really what he's talking about. Though. He's talking about how do we make sure that, not how do we understand different cultures, but he's like, how do we get people that have immigrated here legally, how do we get them to not live in enclaves so that they can actually become American?
I'm not saying the black dudes in Crown Heights were immigrants in an enclave. I'm just saying they were dudes like cool dudes. But I'm saying that if you spend enough time in like a cultural enclave, they'll see you as like this benevolent outside force that they'll want to become more like. From my experience, it helped Americanize these people. They really wanted to become Americanized. They didn't know any Americans because they all spoke Spanish, but so having me there was like helpful for them, I think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, Chicago is a great example. There's areas, I mean, if I follow what you're saying, there's areas in Chicago that's 100% Polish. Like you have the signs written in Polish. The street signs are in Polish. And another area in Chicago that's Indian food. Some of the best Indian food you can find in the world, by the way. But in Devine Avenue in Chicago, it's all Indian.
I think it kind of depends on the ethnicity that you're actually discussing, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are people who come to this country and they want to really be a part of the American experience, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can understand why certain groups want to sort of hang on to their ethnic identity, but then there's others that want to come to this. Like I have a lot of Filipino friends who come over here. They don't want to still be they want the American experience. They're all Filipinos, right? They might go back to the island, but they still want to have that experience. Or Cubans, for example. Like I know a lot of Cubans because I spend a lot of time in Miami and stuff like that, and by and large they want to come to this country because they want the American dream for whatever that means to them. When I was growing up, when I was in like junior high school and high school, I lived in Pasadena, California. And it was right at the time where there was an influx of Armenian immigrants at that time because of the genocide and everything that had been going on in their country. So people were coming over into the United States. And for whatever reason, Pasadena was one of their destinations. And they were some of the coolest people ever. Like, they fed me. I mean, I actually today I like certain foods that are Armenian foods because I grew up with those because I had Armenian friends at that time. But they wanted to come here and they wanted to be American. And I'm wondering if there's just simply been a change of I don't know, a change of identity or a change of understanding. I think it might depend on the group that comes over here. Certain ethnicities want to be a part of the American experience, and others simply want to retain their own ethnic identity.
I think that a lot of it has to do with which groups the government is actually helping to come over and how they're doing it. If you've got a group, if you've got people that are that are like, we're refugees or we're looking for asylum, that's different than someone that's like, hey, look, man, I saved up a bunch of money back in the old country and now I want to come to the U.S. and make my way in the U.S. I think that
it's a land of opportunity, right?
It's
coming to America.
Because if you come to the U.S. and you're coming because the United States is like, oh, we're going to help you escape this. You kind of, and I'm not saying definitely everyone, but I imagine you've kind of got the attitude or the mindset of, okay, they're going to take care of me. And so when you get to the United States, you're looking for help from the United States. Whereas if you come to the United States because you've saved up money and you've got some kind of, you're looking to get, for economic opportunity, you've got the mindset of, I want to go to the U.S. to do something, as opposed to, I want to go to the U.S. for someone to help me.
Well, one of the guys who is one of my business partners, Miguel Munoz, he runs a podcast called Dollar Cost Crypto, and he does Moon Gang, and he's one of the names in the crypto community. He and his younger brother Kyle, is my producer for my show, The Rational Mail, on Sundays. But they are second generation immigrants from Mexico. Yeah. And they're here legally. Don't call ICE. They're here. But they started out doing landscaping and everything, picked it up and built upon that, and built and built and built to the point where he's now it's a crypto millionaire. Yeah. And believes in the American dream. America's the greatest country in the world, right? Yeah. So to me, it's like, I think it kind of depends on sort of the ethnic identity of who's coming into this country. Maybe it's because of the hardships that they had to endure when there are other countries, and they come here and they go, there's so much more opportunity here. I want to be a part of this place, right? And then there's other people who say, they might be Somali immigrants that go to France or wherever else, and they're just like, they just want to make their own enclaves within that in that country, because they're just they're bringing those third world problems into a first world country and not really integrating into. They don't want to be part of the French experience. They don't want to be part of the German experience, or Ireland has a lot of immigrants as well, right? And they just simply don't want to be a part of whatever that is. They just want their own enclave within that territory.
Well, you want something that's American to hopefully assimilate to, and then we could all argue about what that actually we us four might agree, but there's people that wouldn't agree. And I think the Somalis are a great example. You lean into what's your comfort zone. Okay, here I am. Okay, well, we'll go hang out with you. We're going to go to the bar together, listen to some freaking Motley Crue, or I'm going to hang out with other Somalis because I'm comfortable with them. Right. You know what I mean?
All right. Why don't you guys smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, share the show with your friends. Head on over to timcast.com and become a member. Head on over to Rumble and join us there. Rollo, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at, you can find all my books on Amazon for The Rational Mail. I have 6 books, not just one, but I am the author of the original Rational Mail book. You can also find me on Twitter. I am Rollo Tomassi at Rational Mail. I'm on Instagram as well, which is just rational_mail. And then I do a show with Mike Sartain usually every other week in this very studio here. It's called Access Vegas. And then I've got my own show every Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, The Rational Mail.
Awesome. John Cerasani, you could find me on Instagram, JOHNCERASANI. All my books and other things I do is at 2000%raise.com, or just look at the link in my bio. And Ian, I don't know why I just assumed Motley Crue would be the right analogy there. You kind of look like the deep and dark.
I was thinking Richie Blackmore, but okay, that's
I don't know. Who's Richie Blackmore?
He's the lead guitarist for Rainbow.
Really? I don't even know who Rainbow is either. I'm amongst giants.
You know what? I'm going to turn you on some Rainbow.
Okay. And I can
Smoke on the Water, bro.
I like that song. There you go.
Rainbow? Okay, that's there. Okay.
Okay.
I can name all the Motley Crue members except the one you look like. Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, Vince Neil. You look.
And the other guy?
That's the one you look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do some research.
Mick Mars. There you go.
Mick Mars. Thank you. There we go.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Only me and Phil knew that.
You can follow me at Ian Crossland on the internet. Go to YouTube, Instagram, X. Follow me at Ian Crossland. That's where you'll find my stuff at Ian Crossland, Phil Labonte.
I am Phil the Remains on Twix. Stick around for the Rumble After Show. We are starting right now.
All right, let's get into it.
Ha! All right.